Good evening.
Hey,
I'm doing
hey,
well,
boo.
honey.
How
Are
you
you well?
doing?
Are you okay?
I'm very well. I'm very well, thank you. Actually, no, I'm gonna
Sure.
be like really honest. Can I be honest? No, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well. Like I'm really struggling today. Um, I'm really struggling to cope with like the aftermath of 20 2020 and COVID-19 and COVID, and now that like the restrictions are done and
Yeah.
like we're supposed to get back to normal life, I can't seem to get back into normal life. It just feels like I'm supposed to click back into it, and I can't seem
Yeah.
to. So I'm just gonna be honest, like I'm struggling. But I'm really glad for this conversation because I feel like it's important for what we're gonna talk about today. Because I'm not the person who's gonna show up and tell you that things are perfect. Like I don't think that's what you came
Yeah.
for. I don't think that's what anybody came for. Um, I will say this: like today was tough because so I have two cats, right? Me and my kids have two cats. And one of my cats had to go into we took him to the vet because he wasn't feeling well. And when we got to the vet, they told us that he has to go to hospital and that he's like now critical, and I don't think he might not make it. So like, can I just say something? Like my whole life, like I used to judge white people, like, right? Like white people and Oprah. I used to judge them when they talk about like, oh, my dog is sick. My dog is sick and my cat is sick and I can't handle it and I'm feeling so sad. And I used to judge them and be like, what? Your cat and your dog is sick? Okay. Oh, not for me. Until like I had kids and then I decided to get them pets. Pets were really important in our lives because pets taught my children how to love something outside of themselves, something smaller than themselves, something more helpless than themselves, something that like something that needed them. And it taught my children from a really early age how to take care of something. And
animals.
It changed my whole perspective on like pets and having animals. And because I used to judge everybody who would like go on about animals, I thought it was like a privileged thing. Like, oh, you're so privileged. You've got dogs, you've got cats, and now your cats are sick, and now your dogs are sick, whatever. And now I'm here now, and my children are crying. My children are sad. I'm sad because we're really close to our cats, and my cat had to go to hospital today. So he might not make it, and I'm feeling really sad.
To hear that. I'm really sorry to hear
but anyway,
that. I don't have pets, but I understand the concept of having a pet and loving a pet and taking care of a pet like you would a child, because I've got a daughter. So that I get. I understand it.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's so part of like a mental health conversation today, right, is me wanting to say to everybody like a part of mental health is when people ask you, hey, how are you, Bon?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, Kamo? You don't just go, I'm fine. No, you're not. If you're not fine, you're not fine. And then you need to be able to say, look, it's going to be okay, but I'm not fine. And I think that's a good like conversation starter for us today, to say like, if you're not fine, you're not fine.
When you're really
and
not,
don't lie and
right?
say that you're fine. You know.
Yeah.
When you're really not.
Okay. Before we get into like heavy discussion and get to the meat of our conversation, I want us to recap a little bit because last week when we had our conversation, the live session ended very abruptly, and I was still wanting you to wrap up on in terms of what do people not know about your industry that you want to share about, or what is it about your industry that people don't pay attention to?
Oh, okay. So I think the most important things I would say about my industry is that people automatically think that if you are in the film, television, music, or any industry that is like public and celebrated on a large scale, people tend to think that you are living soft, everything is glamorous, you are you love the fame, you love the glamour, and things always go your way, and you are better off than everybody else. It's not true. It's not true. It's just literally another industry.
It's a
different industry to yours. It's not different to yours. It's just that it's an industry that entertains people on a large scale, and people get to know your name. They don't get to know you personally. They just get to know your name and what you're offering them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better off than any other industry. It's not different from any other industry. It's like unique traits, and its unique requirements, and its unique what can I say, like tricks and traits. But it's not different from a job. It's a job, right? So when you're looking at it from your perspective, it's a job. But everybody else from who's looking in goes, oh, it's a glamorous field, and everybody's having fun, and this is where I want to be, and this is who I want to be, and this is the best job to have. No, it's not the best job to have. It's the job that you are necessarily perhaps called to. It's not fun. It's not more fun than
it certainly looks like it is much more fun.
Oh yeah, it certainly looks like it. It looks like it's more fun than your job, but it's not, because we get the same gains when we win in the same way. If I get a raise, I get the same raise. If I make more money, I make the same more money than you do. Especially in South Africa. I'm not saying that happens everywhere else in the world. But specifically in South Africa, if you're a celebrity in South Africa, look, it's a job. It's a job. But if I was a celebrity in Hollywood, maybe I'd be able to say, hey, look, I'm making more paper than you are. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that. But it's what it is, you know. But I think what people need to understand about that industry is that people in that industry are not better off than you or anybody else. They're just, it's a place they found themselves in, having talent to be in that industry, having a purpose to be in that industry, and being called to that industry. I certainly see it as something that I'm called to. I don't necessarily see it as something that is superbly special. It is not special. It is hard. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me by saying it's hard. I'm not saying it like, oh, woe is me, it's so hard to be me. It's not hard to be me. I'm just saying that it's as tough as any other job that you could have. But also, it's terrible in that because you're in that industry, everybody looks to you for some kind of instruction. They want you to have something to say that is special, that is unique, that is important. But what if you don't? What if you're just there because you can sing? What if you're just there because you can act? What if you're just there because you're cute?
Does it put unnecessary pressure?
What if you've got nothing else? What if you've got nothing else
pressure on you guys?
Of course it puts unnecessary pressure on you. Of course it does, right? Of course. But it depends, right? So it depends when you get into the industry and you find out that maybe you just have a talent and you offer people a talent and people enjoy it. But it's very rare that you have the talent but not the purpose. So once you're in that industry, you will find that you have the talent, but that you've specifically been called to that industry because you have a purpose that God wants to use as a vehicle for his purpose, which aligns with his purpose. So I think once you're in there, you need to ask yourself, why do 1 million people watch me a week? Is it just for me to go, oh, that was so nice, 1 million people think I'm gorgeous and I'm amazing? Or do you need to go, oh, hey, why are 1 million people watching me? What do I need to pay attention to? And why am I here? And why have I been placed here? What do I do with this? And then it requires you to do the work of finding out why you're there. And then once you're there, you can align your purpose with where you find yourself, with God's will for your life, and with your well-being. Because I mean, I don't know if like anybody enjoys being famous and not being well. I don't get it. For me, I don't get it. Like I don't get why I would want about 1 million people clapping hands for me and celebrating me, and me not going home and going, okay, what do I do with the fact that 1 million people care about what I'm doing? I think that it needs to be a deeper question. It needs to be a deeper question. And I've spent my life trying to find out what the deeper question is. And if you don't feel that question, that's okay for you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that it's weird to take worship and adoration from millions of people and not question what you're supposed to do.
I think not just from observing people in the media spaces and you guys, there are definitely people who don't think it's that deep at all. There are definitely people who don't think their platform is important, or who don't even look at things beyond the talent. They are there. We see them. And we are always calling out to them to say, hey, you've got a platform, you've got access to people. How about you use it for good? And most of the time they will clap back on some, hi, it's my life. You know, that kind of vibe. But I hear what you're saying on purpose, and I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like fame. So one of the things I've been writing about is fame. Fame is I think I touched on it last week. Yeah, and then the reason why I started to look into fame and what fame meant to me is because of my mental health journey. And I started to look at how I was a young girl at the age of 13, and I got discovered by an agent at a bus stop on my way home from school. And my life literally changed overnight, and I became famous in a matter of like a year. I was not in a position to become famous. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't understand what I would have to do in return for being famous. And I mean, like at school, I was like this skinny girl in school. I was corny. I was not cool in school, right? And then so here I am. I'm not cool in school. I'm not necessarily special. And then I get discovered at a bus stop by an agent who tells me that they're going to make me famous. And then I do end up famous in like a matter of a year. And everybody at school is teasing me. I'm standing out. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. And I don't see it for what it is, because the whole time I think it's a big fat joke, because I'm like, how am I famous? I'm just normal. So it made me really look at fame from a very different perspective. And then I started to look at fame and think, how does fame interact with me and who I am? Which brings me then back to where we are now at like a mental health question about fame. When fame interacts with whatever mental stature you're at, like whatever mental position you're at, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you. People say things like, oh, the fame got to her head. She got crazy. The fame got to her head. I was lucky because when fame happened to me, I was really young and I didn't know what to do with it. So by the time I got famous, I was depressed already. I already had an anxiety and depression problem. So when fame came along, I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, not only do I feel terrible all the time, now I'm famous. Now everybody is waiting for me to be happy and excited, but I'm not happy, like really, really not happy. I don't know what I'm going to show them. And then it became a dilemma. It became a serious dilemma. Because when I look at like how I became famous when I was younger and now being famous, they're like two totally different things. Like now I can get onto a live with you and be like, hey, Kamo, it's so cool to be here. Oh. But when I was 13, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? This sucks. I hate it. Why? It was painful. It was actually bordering on painful, because here's somebody presenting you with an opportunity to make money, be recognized, help your family out with the money that you make. But you hate it because you're like, I'm not cool. Like, I don't even have anything to offer. Now I'm 40 and I'm going, hell yeah. Oh, I got something to say. You know, so when I look at those two like polarities, I'm like,
yeah,
it can mess you up. It can mess you up.
I totally get that, and that is why my first question, or my most important question, would be for you to explain to people why mental health is very important and why we ought to prioritize it above all other things that pertain to our lives.
Okay, so mental health, right? Here's the interesting thing about mental health. The minute we say the word mental health or mental illness, you know what people start to do? They go, me? No, I'm not, no, I don't have a mental health problem. Sorry, it's not me. I'm fine. No, I'm fine. So the problem with that is that you only start to question your mental health when you or me say mental illness, mental health. Then you start to question. And then you go, am I in or am I out? Am I mentally ill or am I mentally well? And I think that's where the problem is. Let's not start to talk about our mental health when somebody mentions the word mental health or mental illness. Let's view our mental health from a perspective of how we view our immune system, our physical wellness. So when I say mental health, don't like get like, oh, am I crazy or am I not? No, that's not what mental health is. Mental health is me going, have I considered my mental health in my daily life? When I think about my overall wellness, am I physically healthy? Am I psychologically healthy? Is my immune system healthy? So what people start to do is they go to a place of, am I a sufferer or am I a non-sufferer? So when somebody says mental health, they go,
and then they dismiss it.
Or, no, I'm not depressed. No, I'm not depressed. No, I'm not anxious. No, I feel like that's the wrong place to start off from. Let's start to view our mental health like a garden. You already have a garden, whether you like it or not. Find out if your garden is healthy. Find out if in the past, let's say 10 years of your life, have you been watering your garden, feeding your garden with the right things? And do you daily take into account what your garden needs? The same way when people say, oh, there's a virus going around and it's called COVID-19. And then you start taking ginger and vitamin C, and you start taking all these precautions. Are you taking precautions for your mental health? Let's not start to look at our mental health when we feel unwell.
Yeah.
Let's just take care of it every day. So people like me are here as an example to say, before you get to a place where you're having panic attacks and you can't sleep at night and you have to go to a doctor, why don't you start now looking into your mental health and going, hey, do I take time every day to look into my mental health? And if that is a yes, how do I do it? So when I started my mental health journey, because I found out I was depressed by going to a therapist who then confirmed that I had clinical depression because I was having panic attacks like daily. I would have panic attacks when I was waking up. I would have panic attacks when I was falling asleep. I would have panic attacks like out of nowhere. And then a panic attack is suddenly you're sitting doing nothing and then your heart beats really fast. You can't breathe and you feel like you're literally dying. And you can't stop it. And it carries on until it's done with you. It's an awful feeling. If anybody who's watching has had a panic attack, they'll know that it's awful.
It is.
It's like it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, I've had a panic.
Yeah, it's awful.
I have.
You have. It's awful. It's awful. So I started to have panic attacks regularly, and then at the time I was married, and my husband was like, "Let's go find a psychologist. Let's go find out what's wrong." And I told him what was happening, and he said to me, "You're having panic attacks because you are not only do you have an anxiety problem, but you also have a depression problem." And I was shocked, right? It was a lot for me to take in because I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel anxiety. But you know why? Because I had learned to live with it for so long that I couldn't like pinpoint it. It had become such a regular part of my daily life. I thought that was the right way to be in life. And I didn't know that it was just depression and anxiety until it got so bad that now I was having panic attacks. And so he said to me, "You're having a panic attacks because you have a serotonin deficit. Your serotonin levels are so low that your body has replaced you." So serotonin is the substance that your brain releases every morning to kickstart you, out of bed and to get you going and to get you like doing the things that you're supposed to do. Like, oh, now I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm going to have like a bowl of cereal and I'm going to go to work. When your serotonin levels are depleted, you wake up in the morning and you go, I'm not getting out of bed. Forget it. I hate the world. I hate myself. I hate life. And here's what's funny. You can go on like that for days without realizing it's happening to you. And you can start to think that that's normal. Here's what's really tough about mental illness is that sometimes it hides from you.
Yeah.
You are the person that it hides from the most. And until you go, something is wrong here. Like, I need to go and find out what's wrong. That's when like you almost blow the lid off the roof. But it can hide from you for a long time. So that's why I say to people, when somebody says mental illness, don't go, okay, don't do that. Just have a moment and go, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean if I'm mentally like ill? And the problem with mental illness is that the word, I don't like the word mental illness. So when I talk about my journey, I like to say well-being, mental wellness or mental well-being. Because when you say mental illness, people feel attacked. They're like, I'm not mentally ill. I'm not crazy. I don't have bipolar. I don't have problems. You're forcing people to place themselves in a position where they go, do I have problems or not? And it's like, no, it's like, it's okay, boo. Like, it's not a problem thing. It's
yourself.
Have you paid attention to how well you are psychologically versus somebody who wakes up in the morning and they're confronted by it? So I'm saying to people, and a lot of my message is, let's not wait until we are confronted by a panic attack to confront our mental well-being. Let's daily check into our mental well-being. So some of the things that I do to check into my mental well-being every single day is I meditate every single day. I pray every single day. I exercise at least 3 times a week, because I know that that contributes to my mental well-being as a whole, right? So we don't want to start tackling it when it's a problem. Let's just tackle it before it's an issue. The same way we want to have a summer body.
Right?
Why don't you want to have a summer brain? Why don't you want to have a life brain, a winter brain, an okay brain? Just check in on your brain. And then find out what it's going to take for your brain to be okay.
Let's help people a little bit, so that things are a little bit clearer. Before we even get to some of the myths that are related to mental well-being or mental disorders or illnesses. How do we differentiate between just having a bad day and being depressed, for instance? Like you spoke about serotonin and waking up in the morning and not feeling good, or your serotonin being low. How would you know if you're doing a sort of a test on yourself in the morning and how do you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first of all, like, it's okay to feel sad every now and then when you lose something, or something, you go through a breakup, or you're disappointed because you didn't get that one job, or you had a fight with your mom, or something happened in your life that really like upset your equilibrium. But usually when that happens, you if you can give yourself time to go through that and go, okay, this happened and it hurt me and I felt this way about it, and you can take a step back and evaluate it from a place of like, okay, this hurt, but I'm going to be fine in a couple of days. I think that that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have, doesn't mean that you are in distress. But what I had is something called acute depression, which meant that it had started a long time ago. And then it carried on because I didn't have a mechanism of dealing with it. So there's for me, I'm not, I want to put out a disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. So I will not be able to give you like the jargon and like the right words to articulate what it means to diagnose yourself. That's why you should not diagnose yourself. But I can give you, go and ask people who are equipped for it, who have studied it, who are called psychiatrists and psychologists, who can diagnose you properly, right? But for me, I understood that there's times in life where something really terrible happens to you and you feel really devastated, you feel sad, and you feel a loss, and you can't get out of bed for a day or two, but you find a way to rationalize it for yourself and manage your expectations and be able to say, okay, this sucked, it hurt me in this way, I'm going to give myself a day or two to deal with it, depending on how you deal with it, because some of us aren't even dealing with our problems. Okay, so some of us are suffering from an inability to deal with the little upsets that are happening to us daily, and they're accumulating into just a bad pattern of handling our personal world and emotions, which does not necessarily result in depression or anxiety. It just means that you're just not facing your world and yourself and the things that are happening to you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that maybe you're an anxious person. Maybe you learned from your childhood to like really be anxious about stuff, and you weren't taught tools of how to handle anxiety. Everybody gets anxiety, but the people who don't learn how to handle the anxiety, or the people who don't accept that anxiety is normal, start to treat anxiety like something's wrong with them. and then it's a place they get stuck in and they can't get out of it. And also anxiety can manifest itself in different ways, like procrastination, where you irritability, or you just attack people because you're anxious, or passivity. And then thirdly, you can just have a problem where you're clinically depressed, like I was. I had clinical depression because for a long time I had anxiety, and then the anxiety went untreated, and then it became clinical depression, and then now I have clinical depression. The reason why I had anxiety is because I grew up in a home that was very unpredictable. I grew up in a home where I felt neglected, and I grew up in a home where anything could happen at any point, which is a lot of young Black women's stories, right? Because it's one thing, you know, the thing when people talk about privilege, we talk about privilege from many different premises, but the premise I'm speaking about privilege now is it is still a privileged position to look back at my childhood and go, my mother was a Black woman raising children during apartheid and trauma, and she didn't know how to raise children. She was dealing with a government and a system that said to her, it doesn't matter how brilliant or amazing you are, you can only go so far. I'm going to put my foot on your neck. And once my foot is on your neck, you can't do anything. So we're dealing with an entire generation of women whose men weren't there to help them raise their children because they were in the mines, or they were products of fathers who went to the mines, and they suddenly thought, hey, it's okay to abandon your wife, make children, leave them. So we're dealing with like a whole generation of Black women who were raising children on their own with a government that said, you ain't shit. You're only gonna go up to this level. And once you get here, my neck is on your foot and you can't get further than that. Deal with it. And then those women come home from that job that they need to have to raise their children. And what do they do? What do they do? They're anxious, they're nervous, they're stressed, they're scared. And they're raising daughters. And those daughters were me. Those daughters might have been you or anybody else watching. And then we expect these women to have had a way of teaching us how to live well, how to live consciously, how to live healthily. No, they didn't. Right. They were like literally hanging on, their lives were hanging on a thread. And we expected to come out okay. Yeah. No, we didn't come out okay. And here we are reparenting ourselves and going, my mother did the best she could. Some of them had fathers and mothers, and both of them were oppressed. Some fathers were going to work getting called a boy by some Afrikaner dude who was younger than them. And then they come home and they're like, how do I reclaim my masculinity? How do I reclaim my personhood? So all I'm saying is that, like, Black trauma, let's not get it twisted. Let's not equate Black trauma with any other trauma. I have a problem when people. No. Let's not. It's not even the same. Let's not even have let's not be in the same room when we even talk about it. Okay, because I will get upset.
It's not. It really.
It's not the same type of trauma. So, no, it's not. It's not. And don't mess with me about that. Don't even start with me about that. So here I am saying, okay, so here I am trying to understand how my trauma came about. And I'm saying that if you find yourself in the bracket of mental illness where your childhood was laden with heavy trauma, past trauma, and you were susceptible to it, you need to go deeper. You need to go find out what your triggers are. You need to go find out why you react or respond to certain situations the way that you do. And then let me speak to the parents. Let me speak to the mothers who are watching. Let me say, if you're a mother and you only respond to your children the way your mother responded to you, there's even deeper work to be done. And that it is work well worth doing, because it is important for you to find out why you parent the way that you do. Because if you are triggered in your parenting all the time, all you're doing is just regressing to the way that you were parented when you last dealt with it. So I want to say to people right now, do not be afraid of mental illness or delving into your mental wellness or finding out whether you're mentally well or not. It is not something you should view as a polarity. It is not, am I well or am I not? It is, I have a mental wellness responsibility. I have a responsibility towards my mental wellness and mental well-being that I need to take care of every day. I just need to take care of it the same way I take care of my immune system. I take vitamin C for my mental, for
your immune. It's the same way we eat. The same way we eat every day.
The same way I eat the right stuff for my body. The same way I take vitamin C for my immune system. What am I doing to tend to my mental well-being before there's a problem? There does not have to be a problem for me to tend to my mental well-being. And I think that is my message this month. That is my message to people who are wanting to have a conversation about mental well-being and mental wellness, is that we're not going to talk about, I don't want to talk to you about when you're depressed and when you're having anxiety. I want to talk to you about what you do daily to tend to it. Do you have a practice? Do you have a way? Do you have an engagement level where you go, because I'm tending to this garden?
Your sound is gone.
Feed it. And that's the conversation I want to have. I don't want to have a manageability conversation. I want to have a well-being conversation. I'm
totally with you on that one. I am very much pro prevention. I'm very much pro being intentional. Very much pro being let's learn how to handle fire before a fire happens. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I see there's a lot of comments, and I haven't been, I've just been wanting to get distracted, but I see there's a lot of comments and questions. The first one, as I read through, the first one that I saw that went past was, when are you releasing a second book?
Wow, guys. Okay, can I tell you something? So you know, when I wrote my first book, right? I had not intended on becoming an author, like until I wasn't like trying to be an author, period. I just wanted to write that one book because it was going to save my life, and I knew that it was going to be an incredible message for many people. And then it became a bestseller, and then I was like, oh my gosh! And then everybody who encountered it was like, oh, you have to write another book, and I was like, I don't want to write another book. I don't want to write another book. And not because like necessarily like there's a problem with writing a book. It's just that writing a book is hard, not gonna lie. But after I wrote the book and it became a bestseller, I felt a responsibility to write another book. So because I'm not writing books to make money, because I'm not writing books to be famous, I want to make sure that the next book that you guys read is from my heart, from my soul, from my mind, from every single part of me. So what ended up happening is that in the past 3 years, I've started writing 3 books. I keep writing each of them, and I'm waiting for the book that is the one that stands out the most for me, and that's the book that I'm going to pursue the most. But it looks like my next book is also going to be, I wanted my next book to be a fiction book, because I was so afraid to.
Your sound is gone.
Oh, sorry. A call came in and I knocked
it
off. Can you hear me now? Yeah. I think that's a call about my cat. So anyway, so now I've decided that the next book that I'm going to write is going to be another nonfiction book, and it's going to be about fame. Ooh. I actually just want to write a whole book about fame.
I look forward to that one. Do you have an indication, Yana, of when this book is coming? Okay.
I'm thinking July next year.
July is my birth month, just by the way.
Okay. So you know what it is? I think some things like a story that comes to mind is that story about the talents in the Bible, where God gives him a whole bunch of talents, and he gives this guy talents, and he comes back and he says, "What did you do with their talents?" And he says he buried them. And then he asks another guy, and he says he took his talents and he multiplied them. And I think not all of our talents are supposed to make us money. I think capitalism has taught us has put us at a disservice, and taught us that every single talent that we have to turn it into money. So we park it if it can't make us money. We don't treat it as something. We put like this heavy burden of it performing for us, when all it needs to be is just us engaging it, because we don't know what God wants to do with it, right? So that resonates. That totally resonates. Yes. You got more than one talent. It's not supposed to make you money. Just use it. And that's what writing has taught me. It's teaching me to just write because it's beautiful, because I can, and because I love it. Like, I know a lot of incredible women who are writing amazing books, and they feel this pressure to not publish them, because they're like, who's going to read this? Who's going to buy it? Who cares? You're using your talent. You are exercising your talent, and someone needs to read it. God's going to read it. God's going to be excited, if anything. Like capitalism is such an oppression on its own. It's just like, if you're not making money, we're not interested. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why? What is this pressure? Why do we put this pressure on our gifts to make us money? They're gifts. We're supposed to just share them.
I wanna do service and justice to some of the people that are here. Most people are just agreeing with you and talking about how Black culture sets us back, and how mental health issues are deemed to be weak. When someone is going through something, they're deemed to be weak, and all of that. There's a lot of comments around that. Tutu Puane, hey, love her and her beautiful. Hey, Tutu says,
hey, Tutu.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
She's saying yes to the summer brain. So we need to be working on our summer brains more than we work on our summer bodies. Billionaire DJ is saying, I had major depression, and I'm happy that she's speaking about it in the past tense. And I know she's read your book, and your book helped her quite a lot. And her therapist is the one that recommended your book to her. I must mention that one as well. A lot of people can relate to what you're saying. Of course, they love your openness. I love it too. You know, you're amazing. And okay, some people are gonna cry. We're gonna move on from there. Guys, don't be tearing up right now. Don't be tearing up right now. Let's hold it in. Let's bring it. You know, let's get back to what she was saying about talent, because that totally resonates with me. And you'll hear people telling you, why are you spending so much time on this thing that's not even bringing you money? And you've given me an answer. You know, not every talent is supposed to bring in money. We need to reevaluate. We need to reevaluate all these things that also systems like capitalism have taught us, right?
Yeah, a lot of our talents are supposed to serve. They're supposed to serve. We're supposed to serve people with our talents. They're not there to make us money. They're supposed to like, and also, when have you ever served people and felt terrible afterwards? It's not possible. You never feel terrible after you've served people. Give me just okay, unless it's like you are married into a Xhosa family and they just want you to make tea all day. You might feel crappy at the end of the day. Okay, that's some shade. That's some shade and that's some spice. Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying, I'm talking about this kind of serving where you're like, this is my talent and I want to serve you in this way. And I know that God called me here. God gave me this. And when I do it, I feel his presence. You don't have to make money from it. Like,
I hate it too.
I hate capitalism, man. Like,
we all say we need to be able to look at our pain with grace and kindness and context, then journey towards our healing. Mahomet said, we need this now.
No.
This conversation needs to be held nationally. I agree with you. I also feel, I don't know about you, Bonnie, is there enough information when it comes to mental health, mental wellness, mental well-being?
So you know what? There's definitely not enough information out there about mental wellness and mental well-being and mental health. Like when I look at, like I remember being, you and I both remember, and anybody watching remembers being at school. We would like get life orientation lessons about adolescence, about adulthood, about being responsible, about sex. But nobody ever said to us there was such a thing as mental well-being and how your mental health could literally debilitate your life and your efforts at being an effective human being, right? Nobody ever said that to us. This is something we're finding out later. And I'm just, there's not enough conversations. I remember when I brought up my book, it was a very lonely experience, not mostly because everybody was like, oh, this black girl is talking about mental illness and she's also famous and she's saying she was depressed. I mean, I got shunned a lot. I even lost work because of it for a couple of years. I did, because of the stigma. People were just like, oh, she said she was like mentally ill. Oh, that's crazy. We ain't trying to hire her. And it was sad because I remember I was doing a meditation this morning, to like a spoken meditation, and one of the things that came up in the meditation by the person who was leading the meditation, they said, the only time we distance or isolate ourselves from an idea is when we fear it. So it is existentially, it's that people fear engaging mental illness or mental wellness or mental well-being because they fear it's in them. And I'm saying, don't fear that it's in you. Just approach
because we're gonna
pay garden.
Because if we keep ignoring it, we're gonna pay a high price in the future, right?
Don't ignore it. Yeah,
it is.
It's gonna catch up with you. And even if you're ignoring it, and you're a parent, you're probably raising your children to be mentally ill, guys. Because you're ignoring the fact that there's an aspect of you that is not present with an unhealthy way of thinking about things. And if you're not thinking healthily about things, you're just passing it on. Or you're practicing it daily and you're not allowing yourself the time and the space to engage it and probe it. So you have the safety of your secrecy. You have the safety of your alone time to go, am I okay? Am I engaging my mental? Nobody's saying you have to shout it to the streets like I did. Look, that's my calling. That's my purpose. I know that that's my calling. It doesn't have to be yours. You can just engage it in your personal space and just every day ask yourself, how healthy am I feeling mentally?
before we touch
And
our
what can I
phones,
do?
before we do many other things, we need to be asking ourselves that question. The minute you open your eyes, you must ask yourself that question.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. There are things I can't live without. I cannot live without meditating. I cannot live without prayer. I cannot live without exercise. If I don't exercise 3 times a week, if I don't meditate every day, if I don't pray 3 times a week, or if I don't talk to God in some way or another, because I also do it in meditation,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be okay. And I'm not even afraid to say that. I don't have a need to say that I'm self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I don't need to say that. I don't need to be self-sufficient. I'm letting you know that these are the things that keep me going. These are the things that keep me alive. And these are the things that don't keep me barely alive. They keep me healthy.
Guys, boys or girls, like good. So each of us, renal homework, each of us, we need to come up with rituals. As much as some of us do self-care and self-love on Sundays and all of that, we need to be mindful of our mental health. We need to create cultures and rituals specifically for our mental well-being. Yeah. I'm looking at the time, and just like last week, we are almost out of time. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm just going to use these to read some of the comments, because you've unpacked a lot. Someone is capitalism that has twisted our way of thinking. Today's society, a person is considered useless if they're not earning a certain way. And then Alish Creations says we are paying for our mental health by the demands of the world today. Billionaire DK. And now I was stigmatized by management and leadership and subordinates during my downtime. Yeah, there's a lot of ignorance. I know it for a fact that there's so much ignorance when it comes to mental health, mental well-being. And we need to demystify. We need to do a lot more. And I will certainly do my best when it comes to the movement. Yeah. Your last thoughts before Instagram cuts us off. You've got 2 minutes.
Oh, so my last thoughts. So first of all, thank you so much for this platform. But like my last thoughts are, our first step is to stop talking about mental illness in like this brutal narrative. We need to stop creating this brutal narrative around mental illness. We need to stop saying things like crazy, unstable, bipolar, she's crazy, she flips. No, there are words to use. You either have a mood disorder, you either are anxious, you are depressed, you are tired, you are burnt out. There are words. There's an entire dictionary to support and describe what you're going through. Do not resort to the most brutal and most disqualifying ways of describing what you or anybody else around you is going through. Because that's the first step. That's the first step to self-care, is speaking about how you're feeling in an empowering and helpful way.
If you didn't get it, guys, the recording will be available on the Redefining Beauty page at Redefining Beauty SA. I'm Kamo Magabane. Bonnie, it's been so wonderful. Thank you.